it's easy to find a good idea, but it's a bit harder to find a big idea. Not all good ideas are big ideas.
Khailee, for those who are maybe a little unfamiliar with the way venture works, right? Because people are going to be like, oh, but you lost money here and you lost money there. Talk to us about how, I guess, venture succeeds in the longer term in terms of the number of success stories to failures.
Yeah, so 500, I won't talk about venture fully as an asset class because a lot of venture capitalists have different strategies, right? Some venture capitalists would have like, oh, I'll invest in 10 companies, or I'll invest in like 20 companies. But for 500, our seed funds, minimum 100. So a lot of people, like, they don't want to do that because it's a lot of work, actually, right? You have to look through like thousands upon thousands to find the top 100, right? But we love this work. So we'll find 100 companies and all we need is one of them. I'll give you an example. Say Carson, right? They're returning the multiple on the first check of Carson would be close to 200 times.
Wow.
So that means I'm covering 99 failures with one Carson, right? And I'm doubling on that. I can cover 200, like 190. I can cover 200 failures if I wanted to, right, with that one check. But imagine you get another carousel. Boom, you get another 100 something X. You get another, you know what I mean? So we're actually optimizing for diversification so that we take less risk. Because if you only did 10 companies and you didn't get your Carson, you may stand to lose some of your investors' money, right? So for us, it's like that's kind of like our approach to it.
Just a quick question: when you find someone like Carson or you find somebody like E-Fishing, do you get that moment, that spark of like, this is one of them? Is there something that tells you like instinctively?
I'll tell you one metaphor or story, right? And I learned this from another very, very, very repeatable investor when I first started, right? And I asked him, I said like, wow, you made this investment and the decision was so quick. How'd you do it? He told me this. If let's say you're hunting, right? And you're hunting and you don't know what you're hunting for, when the animal shows up, you're like, oh, am I going to shoot? Am I going to pull the trigger? What am I going to do? Do I really want to, But if you set your intention like this is the kind of like animal I'm going to hunt for, the moment it comes in your crosshair, boom, you pull the trigger, right? So that really informed the way 500 and the way we look at things. We study the business models very, very, very deeply. We study business models to avoid like we completely avoid quick commerce and dark store where you get like a toothbrush in 5 minutes type thing. We completely avoided that because we studied that to be so we don't want to see anything come across and invest in that. However, like with other business models, like say the secondhand car one, right? Or certain fintech models, right? We've already studied all of them. The moment we find the entrepreneur who's qualified enough to get that job done, we pull the trigger. One other thing related to picking founders though, what we've learned from our years of investing is that a lot of folks get really excited about what the company has done, the traction, right? Like, oh, how much traction do you have? Like, oh, look at how many customers and returning customers you have. I get really excited about that. We found that to be a false positive. It's almost like a myth. And it's very scary when we cross that data. Because when we found our biggest, most significant markups, our biggest outcomes that drive fund returns, a lot of them were just ideas. They had very little traction. But what else did they have is that they had a proven business model that you can call them copycats, but not essentially copycats, but they already have a lot of references that sized up the market, that made it a bit more familiar of a business model. So if you can get in at those types of companies, those patterns, and that kind of informs how we invest in today. We're not totally attracted by just traction alone. We need to make sure that this traction is leading you to somewhere big. I'll kind of make it crispy. The way of saying it is like this. It's easy to find a good idea, but it's a bit harder to find a big idea. Not all good ideas are big ideas, right? So that's kind of like one big lesson from our decade of investing here.